Okay, now it's time to talk about traits. A trait is defined as a distinguishing quality or characteristic, typically one belonging to a person. Each person has different traits, and many of those traits are part of a person's mindset. Let's talk about some of the more important ones that might be part of your inventory of traits. Although many other traits in your power arsenal are essential, I truly believe that focus is the driving force of them all. Unfortunately, it isn't obvious how truly essential focus is to your success. What becomes obvious is what happens when you lack focus. You're distracted from essential tasks, you become unproductive, you don't get things done that need to be done, you start feeling frustrated, you begin to believe that you can't reach your goals, or you stop setting goals altogether, or at best you set simple goals that are easy to reach and not the stretch goals that can truly change your life. My first book, $5 a Day, whether everyone noticed it or not, was mainly about focus and how I went from 3 years of total failure and miserable life-sucking debt to no debt, no worries, no confidence issues in a very short period of time. The difference between then and now, I learned to focus, even if only for short bursts of time. I even purchased expensive white label rights to Action Enforcer, a piece of software that pretty much forces you to focus if you use it properly, and it's been a constant companion to me every working day. Focus has changed my life. Think about it. How focused are you during a typical day? I think most will admit that focusing is hard, and I'll admit that also, but it's worth it. Let's dig deeper into focus since it's so important to us all. The most important part of eliminating distractions is figuring out what's distracting you in the first place. It could be a cluttered desk, lots of tabs on your browser, your cell phone, Skype or Facebook Messenger temptations, social media in general, etc., etc., etc. It's also important to realize that some of these distracting things have become habits. They become everyday parts of your life, and it's not as easy as just saying you want to eliminate them. I suggest you figure out what the most devastating distraction is to you right now. Let's say it's spending time on Facebook when you're supposed to be working. Forget about all other distractions right now and concentrate on that one only, or whichever one you're choosing to concentrate on. Since you've chosen to eliminate the distraction of wasting time on the Internet, Google for some ways to eliminate the problem. There are various browser and computer add-ons and software that can help you block yourself from certain time-wasting websites. There's even software that will completely shut down the Internet for a time you specify and won't let you turn it back on until that time's up. The options available differ depending on your operating system and your needs, so take a look at the Firefox add-ons and the Chrome add-ons or whichever browser you use. You can also choose to change your habits of distraction and time wasting very specifically. Maybe instead of visiting Facebook or Twitter first thing in the morning, or even allowing those notifications to pop up on your phone, do 3 important things in your business before you allow yourself time on those sites, even time that does contribute to your business. Bright, shiny objects are the little things that glitter in your path as you move along in life. Things might be going relatively well, but a BSO will distract you from what's working and pull you off the path to something that looks enticing, but is really just a distraction. I think the BSO syndrome is particularly prevalent with Internet marketers because there's always a new course or report or sales page that promises quick riches if only you stop doing what you're doing now and start doing the system they want you to buy. I know, I've had it, and I don't think you can ever totally get rid of the temptation to check out a new bright shiny object. In fact, some can be truly life-changing, but most aren't. You need to pick and choose and remember to only buy into something new if it contributes to your short or medium or long-term goals and is something that you'll be able to put into use almost immediately. Procrastination is the ultimate lack of focus. You know you should be doing something now, but you don't. You do something else instead. You visit Facebook, or you read the sales page of a bright, shiny object, or you start a chat with a friend on Skype, or you check your phone or emails. Really, procrastination is evil. Eliminate that from your habits, and you'll very soon be many times more productive than you ever were before. You also have an income much higher, assuming you control your own income now, if you're an entrepreneur and self-employed already. When someone asks you what you've accomplished by the end of the day, and your honest reply is, well, I intended to do X, but didn't finish because of Y, in most cases, that's just procrastination. Action Enforcer, the software tool, helps battle that, by the way. Focus means that you'll have to give up multitasking because your mind really can only focus on one thing at a time. Yes, you can do multiple things in a day, but first one, then the other, then another, not all at once. My action and focus time slots are typically 30 to 60 minutes each, and during each slot, I work on just one thing. Like now I'm working on creating this video about mindset. Once I'm worn out from this focused task, I'll work on something else or take a break. Since this specific task is going to take quite a while, much more than a typical hour slot, I can't finish it in one sitting, so I'll focus on it for an hour and then restart later when I'm fresh again. Eventually, due to incremental progress, it'll be finished. But if I procrastinate and put it off until I had a day when I thought I could go from start to finish in one session, it would never get done. We all have shortcomings, bad habits, mindset issues, things we don't want to admit to others, etc. That doesn't mean those shortcomings can't be fixed, of course. As we talked about when we were discussing habits, we can make one change at a time, ideally, but those changes generally need to come through the application of focus. With each positive change, you come closer to your ideal self. Your mindset improves, you become more confident, and your self-esteem gets a boost. Make focus a habit, and miracles can happen. To wrap up our discussion about focus, don't just do it when the mood strikes you. Plan it, make it a habit, create a system for implementing it, make it a part of your daily visualization, etc. I told you my story about where my life was before I decided to buckle down and focus on small personal successes, which eventually build up into bigger and bigger ones. I'm a believer, and I hope you become one as well. Focus on getting things done and making positive improvements to your abilities and your mindset, and again, miracles can happen. We often get so jaded and stuck in our ways that creativity is all but shut down. It's frustrating because we know how important it is to be creative in business, but you just can't seem to find a way to let those ideas in. You expect them to just come to you, but you're stressed, out of practice, and unsure of the next steps. You can go through life ignoring the value of creativity, or you can embrace it. I know you will embrace it because it's important for your future and the future of the world. You already see the value in being more creative in your life and in your business. It's not that you're ever completely devoid of creative thoughts. You most certainly have them, but you don't work your creativity muscle enough to strengthen it. You don't respect and trust your ideas, and you don't have the confidence to carry them through. One of the most helpful ways to start opening your mind to creativity is to realize that great ideas come from other people. It's not like you suddenly have to change the world from scratch. In fact, it's not even possible to do that. The world's greatest thinkers didn't start from nothing. You're going to start listening to other people to open your mind. You're going to soak up their ideas and ways of looking at the world. Whether you meet people online from different places and with different ideas, you network locally, or you start to listen to people in your daily life with renewed vigor, you're going to start to listen. Some business people find themselves in near constant solitude. They find it makes them more productive and keeps the time wasting to a minimum. There absolutely is something to that at certain points of the creative process, but it's not something you can or should adhere to most of the time. Spend a lot of time listening to others, bouncing ideas around, and examining things from a perspective other than your own. Your creativity muscles will become stronger when you do this. While you're listening to others, also be watching them. Pay attention more to what they do than what they say, though both are helpful in boosting your own creativity. Let your brain come up with other scenarios for what they're doing and saying. In other words, don't copy others, but find ways to alter their methods in new and exciting ways. Any good product or service or method can be improved on, trust me, since by necessity, if for no other reason, most people subscribe to the good enough is good enough theory because perfection just doesn't exist. So then you can take something and make it just a little bit better than good enough, if you know what I mean, by imparting your own creativity on top of the other person's. Since you'll never be able to get up close and personal to all the great minds in our generation, you accomplish much by becoming an avid reader. Everything you read mixes and combines with your current education and will often give you fantastic ideas when you least expect them. And don't just read about the same subject all the time. Widen your horizons and expose yourself to experts that you've never known before. The more you read, the more you learn, the more you experience, the more your creativity will grow and expand. As you start to open your mind, the ideas will start pouring in as if by magic. Does this mean you're more creative now? It does, but only if you follow your ideas through. To be creative, you have to create. To create, you have to give your ideas time to mature and follow through with them. It's important you learn not to censor your ideas before they reach that point of maturity. I'm a huge advocate of brainstorming and mind mapping problems and ideas so you can make connections you wouldn't have made otherwise. However, I find that many people feel the need to erase and edit as they're brainstorming. In my opinion, that's a terrible idea. By its very nature, brainstorming means letting everything out that comes to you. Everything. So let's talk more about brainstorming. Many people think of brainstorming as something that you do as a group, and yes, it works phenomenally well there. Individuals throw up ideas to the group, not too large of a group, and connections are made between seemingly random thoughts. But as an individual entrepreneur who's self-employed, you might not have a group to interact with that way. It doesn't mean that brainstorming has to be avoided. Just get away, allow your mind to relax, and decide what you want to brainstorm about. Come up with as many ideas as you can. Don't censor them at all. Write them down. And when you come to a point where you can't come up with anything else, you can then schedule another session where you try again and or start to connect the ideas, do a little editing, maybe at that point some censoring, etc. Again, although small groups are ideal and typical for brainstorming, when you brainstorm on your own, you don't have to worry about other people's egos or opinions, and that in itself might make you more creative. In a group setting, you might forget about the rules about not censoring ideas and be shy about bringing up what could be a great one for fear of group rejection or because there are stronger voices in the group that are dominating the discussions. But that idea might be something special, and on your own, you'll give it life. A problem might become that left alone, without the resources and expertise of others in the group, your ideas might not become fully developed, but don't let that hold you back, please. Pay attention to what you sense around you. Focus on taste, touch, smell, hearing, and sight. Take it all in. Our senses often become dulled when we don't pay attention to them. Absorb information using all that's been given to you, and you'll be more creative as a result. I have to mention that your best ideas will likely come when you least expect them. Brainstorming is a wonderful way to get your mind going, but it's often not until you put the pencil down or turn off the computer and start thinking about something else that the very best idea might come to you. This is how your mind works. You feed your mind information and inspiration, start to make connections, and then give it a rest. Your mind will naturally do the rest for you. It's an amazing thing. Get away from where you normally are. Go for a walk. Talk with a friend. Read a book. I personally like to sit on my balcony. My wife and I have a vacation condo where we go regularly, and our balcony overlooks the ocean. I love just sitting there and removing all my thoughts and worries from my mind and allowing new ones to come inside. You might not have an ocean to look at, but you probably have your own happy place to go and relax and unwind and get in the flow. While you're there, be sure to take advantage of all the good ideas you'll have. Have you ever had a great idea but forgot to write it down? Don't let that happen, because those ideas will float in and out. You're an explorer of ideas now. You're in control of the future of the world's most important ideas. Forget to write it down, and you're letting the greatness slip through your fingers. Be ready to take notes on your great idea when it hits you. Otherwise, it might become lost in the abyss. It can be really hard to make the right choices in your business. There are so many different things you can do, choices you can make, and things that can go wrong. You want to make sure everything goes right in your business. You want to make sure you succeed beyond your wildest dreams. But how can you possibly succeed when you're totally confused with all the options that are in front of you? First, I want you to know that you're definitely not alone in this. Many people, especially in online business, have a big problem with decisiveness. There are so many different business models to choose from and different ways to implement each of those business models. It's no wonder it's so confusing. The fact that you have to make choices every day is never going to change. Some days you have to make big, life-altering decisions. Other days you make smaller, simpler decisions. Sometimes these smaller decisions are made on autopilot, but often they're not. If you find yourself stewing over even the smallest decisions, then it's time to make some changes. Let's talk about how long it should take you to make a decision. It might surprise you to hear that it doesn't take that long. Whether the decision you're trying to make is a small or a large one, making faster decisions and being more decisive can help you dramatically improve your business. That's because you should spend most of the time moving toward and taking real action rather than stewing over multiple choices. Often your first instinct is the best one. The more you think about it and go back and forth, the more confusing you make things for yourself. You're wasting time on decision-making instead of implementation. There's a better way to do things. You should be able to make big decisions quickly, and you should be able to make smaller, simpler decisions in under a minute. Let's say it typically takes you 15 minutes to make a simple everyday decision. Well, if you cut that down to 1 minute, you can spend the rest of the time implementing. Implementation equals profit. When you compound all the simple decisions you have to make in a day, then it's clear that being more decisive, more quickly, will save you a lot of time. I'm not saying that you want to fail more often, but I am saying that you'll make a bad decision occasionally, And remember we said that failure is your friend earlier. Well, making a bad decision is a form of failing, and so too is that sort of a good thing. You've learned, you've realized what went wrong, you're ready to correct the situation, and armed with more information now, you can decide to fix whatever the problem is. So don't be afraid that a bad decision will shatter your life forever. It won't. Let's talk more specifically about how you might be able to make bigger decisions more decisively. The classic way to do it is to start off with a pro-con list. I think that's a good idea. A pro-con list helps you weigh all the facts. Writing them down really helps instead of having them swarm around in your head in a confusing way. So on one side of a sheet of paper, you write the pro, good, reasons for making a decision, and on the other side, you write the con, bad, reasons against making that decision. Doing this will provide a great amount of clarity, and yes, it'll take more than the 60 seconds I gave you earlier for smaller decisions, but this process is reserved for the bigger decisions. I also think you should follow your gut when it comes to making big decisions. Pay attention to your instincts because they're often going to lead you in the right direction. And when I say right answer, I don't mean that there always will be one. Often there's more than one right answer, or even an unlimited number of right answers. Don't waste time by being indecisive, even about really big decisions. Just give yourself the facts. Think about what your instinct was and is. If you don't implement the decisions you make, you won't get very far anyway. So you may as well make the decision more quickly with the facts in front of you and just go for it. You have a much higher chance of success than you would if you stewed over it every decision, as has become your habit. You will never know when making a decision and moving forward with it will change your life and your business forever. I can look back on a few decisions that seemed minor at the time that forever altered my life favorably. At the time, they seemed like small decisions, so I didn't worry too much about them. But in the end, wow, I can't imagine where I'd be now if I would have said to myself, why bother, it's no big deal either way. Yes, it was a big deal, but I didn't realize it until years later. Bottom line, don't put off decisions, don't be afraid of them, and you'll marvel at the results, even years later like I did. Self-esteem is the way you feel about yourself. You might have a positive self-image or a negative self-image. If you're like many people, then how you feel changes depending on the hour or even the minute. But how do you feel about yourself overall? You know you're a good person, but do you also feel like you're a bit of a failure in life or business? You're not. I know that for a fact because you wouldn't be viewing or reading this right now if you were. You're a go-getter who's willing to stop at nothing to improve. In some ways, self-esteem is the core to your mindset. Many people don't realize or understand how important mindset really is when it comes to success. The reality is that it's so much more important than all of the how-to strategies there are. If you don't have a positive attitude and you don't have good self-esteem, then it's very, very difficult, if not impossible, to achieve your goals. Mindset is one of those things that can make or break you in business. If you find yourself procrastinating, feeling less than adequate, and constantly starting and stopping when it comes to achieving your goals, then it's highly likely that you have a problem with attitude and self-esteem. How you talk to yourself, in a large part, depends on your self-esteem. You can improve your self-esteem by improving how you talk to yourself. Using affirmations can help tremendously. For example, set an ambitious goal for the month, one that's slightly out of your comfort zone. Choose an affirmation that relates to that activity. Print it out in large letters, make an infographic of it if you're a visual thinker, using an appropriate and striking background or template. Pin it where it's right in your range of vision when you sit down at your desk. Say it out loud to yourself with conviction every time your eye falls on it. Mentally visualize achieving your goal while you do this. Self-esteem closely relates with attitude, of course. Your attitude exists on a spectrum with positive on one end and negative on the other end. Do you think you have a mostly positive or mostly negative attitude? If you have a mostly negative attitude and you're really struggling with your business day to day, it's no wonder. Having a negative attitude can really hold you back. It's mentally impossible to work really well if you're constantly thinking about the things that are going wrong and if you're sure that things will always go wrong. It's time to look to the positive. Most people are naturally better able to do this than others. It's something that can be learned. You can keep a daily gratitude journal, for instance, and every time you notice yourself having a negative thought, you can do whatever you can to turn it into a positive thought. You can also think of this in terms of scarcity or abundance. Do you feel like there's more than enough money and income out there for you, and then it's inevitable that you'll grab your share of those things? If so, then you have an abundance mindset, a positive attitude. If you feel like there's never enough to go around, and you'll never succeed, never be high earning, and never reach your dream, then you probably have a scarcity mindset. That's a negative attitude, and it's dragging you down. The bottom line is, do you think you will ever succeed? Do you have a positive attitude for both the short and long term? Do you think you'll achieve your dreams or not? There's a reason your customers and followers are going to choose you over someone else. Maybe it's that you have similar backgrounds or similar styles. Maybe it's that there's something about you that they inherently trust. Maybe their friend can't stop raving about you. Whatever it is, it might secretly shock you. If it does shock you, it might signal some self-esteem issues you might want to get over. Actually, some of the most seemingly self-assured people in the world are actually really insecure, so you're not alone. Still, work on it. Work on having confidence so strong others can sense it. This will help your business and it will help those that you coach. You know your stuff and you know how to help the people you work with. No, you're not guru number one. You're you. And that's exactly why people are going to hire you and not guru number one. For many, low esteem started in childhood. Maybe your parents, other family members, teachers talked down to you. Maybe you were bullied in school. Maybe you weren't the brightest student in the class and you felt bad because of it. Or maybe it was a little later in life when you fell out of place into some small degree of failure. You didn't realize then the failure was a friend because you could learn from it. That was then. You've grown. You've gotten better, much better. You've realized that you're awesome at some things that others aren't, and you've begun to find your place in the world. But that inner feeling, that mindset issue, that low self-esteem issue is still nagging at you because it hasn't gone away since childhood. It's become a habit. Now's the time to meet it head on and improve it through many of the mindset exercises that we've been talking about. Have you forgiven yourself for past failures yet? Even the big ones? Your past is history. There's no going back. You've learned. You've grown. You're driven now towards success in some way, maybe far away from what you failed at in the past. So maybe those failures have no relationship at all to your current reality. Forgive yourself. Forget about it. Move on. It's time to boost your self-esteem so that you have the ability to be more productive and successful. One of the best ways to do this, especially if you've been in a long-term slump, is to give yourself a chance to have small successes. This is something I talk about in my $5 a Day book. Start off with small projects you can complete and start earning with. Follow through to completion. Pat yourself on the back once you started earning with one of your small projects. Snowball your success from there. You can gradually move your goals up, up, up. As you do this, your self-esteem should improve all the while. Celebrate yourself. You deserve it. Are you committed to your business? I'm sure you might reflexively say, yes. That's a wonderful thing, but I think it's helpful to reaffirm your commitment every once in a while. If you think about what it means to be committed to your business, you can return to your work with renewed vigor. Do some brainstorming and journaling. What does it mean to be committed to your business? It might mean sticking with your plans and ideas so you can achieve your goals. It might mean sticking with this even when the going gets tough. It might mean committing to yourself. Are you worth it? Can you really do this? It can be tough to stay committed to your business and to yourself. It takes a lot of pride and self-esteem. But think about what it means to you. Write it down. Ask yourself again if what you're doing is really a business or is it a hobby. Hobbies can be fun for a while, but when they're no longer fun and they become more like work, people sometimes abandon them. However, if you're in a business and it means a lot to you to succeed in this venture, that's entirely another thing, isn't it? So we again come back to the good old reason why. It's good to explore that concept every few months, especially when you feel like what you're doing is starting to drag. A good reason why can rejuvenate you quicker than anything else. On the other hand, if it's weak, so too will probably be your commitment as well as your chance for success. I'm going to assume that you don't want to give up. You're here, reading or listening to this right now, because you want to be committed and you want to succeed. One of the best things you can do to renew your mindset is to review your goals. What are your goals for the next year, 5 years, or the next decade? What are your goals for the upcoming days, weeks, and months? If you've never set solid goals, now's the time. Remember that the more specific you are, the better. Really dare to dream based on what your business is and where you want to go. Now that you have your goals in front of you again, how committed are you? If you don't renew your commitment to your business and to your own success, will you be able to achieve those goals? I think it's really important to do this every so often. In fact, some of the most successful people out there review their goals on a daily basis. That's how you stay focused and committed. If you don't have true goals, it's hard to stay the course. The work you do might feel disjointed and disconnected. Is what you're doing truly worth it? Of course it is, and you start to feel that once you really connect with your goals. So to wrap up, your mindset has to enable you to do some sometimes scary things, such as taking risk is essential. You can't get too embedded in your comfort zone. Thinking that you can reach all your dreams and create a lasting legacy by working a 9-to-5 job 5 days a week and saving part of your weekly savings toward your retirement isn't what entrepreneurs like us are all about. Sure, those things are great, and sure, those things have helped people retire and survive, but those things mean living day to day and week to week, and we need to spread our wings and soar over normal expectations. Sometimes that means failing, and we've learned that failure is our friend, remember? It teaches us what our limits are, but those limits are just momentary, so we can then learn from the failures and go beyond those limits the next time, and next time we'll reach our goals and succeed. Success can be scary, remember? Many others are afraid of success, but not you, not me, and we entrepreneurs that want to change things, right? In the pursuit of success, we have to be willing to do what others aren't willing to do, and that's to take massive, often imperfect, action. We need to sometimes put in more hours than might seem humanly possible in order to attain success that might seem humanly impossible. We also have to be willing to invest in the tools and the training and the resources that will help us get where we're headed. We can't be shy about outsourcing. We can't be timid about having the best. Although we've learned that good enough is good enough, we can't think that about ourselves. We want to be better than that and keep getting better every day, every week, every year, always expanding the limits. And of course, when we invest in ourselves, we're also investing in our business, because as entrepreneurs, we are the business. Although we might not be alone in our business, we are responsible for where it goes and what it becomes. I congratulate you for reaching the end of this document and or this video or audio. You now realize how important your mindset is to your success, and you now have the tools that it will take to blast away beyond your prior limitations. Best wishes in that journey. I look forward to hearing about your future success.